Welcome to today's show, Radiant Realization with Namrita. Today I have with me Dr. Tisha, and she's going to share with us the connection between body, mind, and how body and mind are one single unit. So, welcome, Tisha.
Hi, Namrata, and thank you so much for having me and connecting with me. It's great. I've been watching your content, and it's been a great watch. And it's nice on what you're doing.
Thank you. Tisha, if you can tell me about your journey and what got you excited to pick up and do a lot of learnings around this topic of body mind connection.
Sure. So, I started off as when I started my career, I started off by doing MBBS. And during my internship time, from actually my internship time, I started having a few mental health issues. So it was that time it was called conversion disorder, and I was stamped with and labeled with a few psychiatric issues, and I was put on medications. But I'm very, very grateful that along with medications, I also got exposed to the psychotherapy. And that's when I realized that as a doctor, although I'm just treating things which are happening physiologically in my body and only the physical illness part of it, but my thoughts and the things that I am thinking not only right now but also in the past, maybe something in my childhood, maybe something during my growing years, or something that I've just maybe picked up from somewhere, whether it's my parents, my relatives, movies that I've watched, books that I've read, everything, all of this can shape my thought pattern, my behavior, and that can put some effect on my body and how my health is holistically. And although after that I was driven into what most doctors do, get into post graduation and study for that, and then I got into a corporate job and I went into treating into the critical care patients. And but during that phase also, this curiosity kept me going. And finally, gradually, although I felt that I have treated myself, after I completed my MBBS, it was completely fine. But then again, during COVID time, I had a repeated attack of those panic disorders and conversion disorder. And that's when I realized that something in itself, something inside it's still unresolved. And that's when I started teaching myself and learning more about it, and my internal challenges and how I came up with it. And right now I can gratefully say that even without medications, I'm able to take care of my emotions, and I have not been having any kind of medication since the last few years, even after the second recurrence happened. But only with awareness and education and using those for myself has helped me come up, and now I can actually teach and help other people how to do all that. And that's how, when I realized that okay, mind and body, these are related. This is not just health, is not just the body, it is so much more. So that's how I got into this field.
Amazing. So, Tisha, if you can give us idea, what is body-mind connection?
So, how it started is basically in the initial time, we treated health as with the biomedical model. What it meant was that health was always related to something related to a physical ailment. Something physically wrong with your body means you're ill, or if everything is right with your body, meant that you're healthy. But later on, mostly during World War II and World War One, there were a few disparities. It was seen that people who are physically healthy, yet they were having different symptoms, and they were not having good energy levels or good mood, disorders, and all of that popped up. And then that's the time from when we adopted into something called the biopsychosocial model, which says that it is not just your body, but also how you think, also how you behave, and how you react with your environment. and how the social and cultural factors are affecting you mentally, that also can lead to or contribute to your health. So that is basically the mind-body connection. So your mind can affect your body can affect your mind. Your thought patterns can create effects in your physical body and your physical ailment. Like when we're ill, generally, even if it's a fever, our energy level does go low. We are more irritable. So that is something to do with the mind or the nervous system. Or we see patients who are so we call it, they are in depression even, or they are in anxiety. All of these patients do get a few physical manifestations. They can be bloating, diarrhea, different gastrointestinal manifestations, or they have very low energy, they have sleep disturbances, they have eating disorders. So mind is affecting body. Although organically, if we go into the lab reports or scans or anything, there's nothing wrong with the organ. But they're feeling the symptoms, and these symptoms are real. It's not like they are making it up just to feel or say that I'm not feeling good, but it happens, right? So if I give you a day-to-day or daily, something that we feel daily, like we say, we have butterflies in our stomach when we are anxious, or there's a stage performance, or we are going for an exam, we feel sweaty, we have some tremor. So the anxiety is happening in our mind, but it's showing up in our body, right? So that is basically the mind-body connection.
Okay. And how can people cultivate awareness around this body-mind connection? Because they might not know, and clinically they would get reports where everything is all right. So, what would be the first step of building awareness about disconnect between our own body and mind?
So, firstly, definitely understanding that whenever we have any physical symptom, definitely people first go to a doctor or maybe get some tests done just to rule out whether there's some issue with the organ, okay? Whether it's an whole generalized organ dysfunction or a particular organ dysfunction. If it is not so, then it's important for us to be aware of what are the bodily sensations we feel. So what is a very good way is when I get up in the morning, I do a body scan, whether I'm feeling pain in some part of my body, whether I'm feeling any kind of uncomfortable situation, which I generally don't feel in my body, and to first be aware that bodily, am I feeling okay? And if you're not, then to look into the different matters which we regularly do, like have I been eating well, have I been sleeping well, what are the contents that I have been seeing, have I been seeing too much anything negative, have I been exposed to some emotional, very high intensity emotions, something some conflict going on in my relationship, something going on in my mind. I'm anxious about something, something's coming up, something big, something anxious. And if that particular event is correlating with my body having pain or jitters or tremors, if these are related, then we need to look through it, that can these be related? Firstly, cultivating that awareness that these are related, it need not be different.
And what is the impact of disconnection between our thought and way our bodies in form of our physical health, emotional well-being, or our day-to-day cognitive functioning?
So it can manifest in different ways. So like I said, if it is just an anxiety, then at times we have either we feel very restless. So our decision making is impaired. In that case, if you are very restless and we are not able to, sometimes I say, I can't think, I can't do this. Okay, so that is basically because somehow your brain shuts down when you're in too much of high anxiety. It's like getting into a flight or fright or freeze reaction, right? When you see a tiger in front of you, what your brain knows that you have to protect your body. It's because the brain knows that the first function is to make you survive. You have to live. That's the most important function that is given to your mind and your brain. And what your brain wants to do is you either run from that danger, so your flight, or you either have to fight with that danger, you fight and save yourself. And if both of that is not happening, like you don't have any other means to protect yourself, then you freeze yourself so that the pain that or the danger feels less, right? And getting into that mode, although today we do not have the tiger, although today we are not living in the forest, but the brain has the memory of all of that, right? So some danger that you felt in the past, and if there is something similar, your brain has a memory of that, that this is how we manage that. And your brain basically activates that same cascade that it had during trauma, although it's not the same. And what happens is when you get into that reaction, it is mostly an autopilot. And what you feel is that you feel very disconnected with your surroundings, with the other people. Sometimes people say that I'm not able to feel anything. I'm not able to say anything. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to take a decision. And definitely, if it goes for a very long time, sometimes our body does develop a few defense mechanisms where your body keeps you functional. So your day-to-day activities might not be hampered. You might be working and doing all the things that you regularly do, but it comes up in forms of some emotional outburst, or in severe cases, your body, your mind tells you or signals you through your body. So there's something called somatization of your emotional outburst. So what happens, we see a lot of patients who come in with absolutely no comorbidities. They're absolutely healthy, but then suddenly, all of a sudden, they'll either have a tremor, they'll have a breathing issue, okay, their heart rate will be very high, or they will or they can just go into mute. They're not talking at all, or they're not able to talk. So all of this, after running all the tests, we find that everything is fine. Okay, nothing is wrong with the physical part of your body, but it's like they're not able to control their body or what they're doing with their body. Inside their head, they might be feeling that I know what's happening to me is wrong, or I know I should not behave this way. I know I should not do this particular movement, but they feel that they're not able to control their body anymore. And it's basically a disconnect. Your mind does not have any control of your body. So these things can happen, and cognitively, definitely your learning can be impaired. It's difficult for you to focus or put your attention to a certain thing. Your day-to-day activities, which if it's a very skillful activity, right, then it takes you longer to do that thing. And if it goes on, even your daily chores like taking a bath, getting ready, even that becomes very tiring or fatigued. Many people do also get a few very non-specific pains in their body. So pain, either it can come in the form of a headache. Sometimes it comes in the form of a backache, spine ache, low backache, right? And many a times such people will say that the pain does not stay in one particular point, but it just goes to different parts. Sometimes it's a headache, sometimes it's a backache, sometimes it's your hands. So there are no specific symptoms, and when you get any tests done, whether it's a neurological test, whether it's a lab test, most of them are normal, and it actually adds up to the distress of the patient, because they're saying because then they feel that my symptoms are not validated, and it adds up, and so all aspects of your life do get hampered by that.
And in this case, how can an individual manage their thought or build an awareness around what is the impact of their thoughts or emotion on their physical health?
So basically at that acute phase, it's very difficult. What we can do is, when you're not in that acute phase, you can start to educate yourself about this mind body connection. So there are few methods, like you can start doing exercising is a brilliant way to create a mind body connection, because when you're exercising, basically what happens is we are mostly in our minds, and in our minds can wander to past or future. But when we are in our body, when we are exercising or doing yoga or any kind of physical movement, we are basically forcing our mind to come back to our body and come back to the present. And most of this disconnection comes from either being anxious about the future, what will happen, or something that happened in the past that happened and it's still affecting me. But when we come to the present, at this moment, we are not in danger. At this moment, I'm safe. At this moment, I am in control of my body. And when you start to move, your mind gets the signal that, okay, I can control my body. It's safe. It's okay. And that's when your mind gets signal that, okay, I do not need to behave this way. It's safer. So yoga and exercise on a regular basis does help to strengthen that mind-body connection. Doing mindfulness meditations or mindfulness practices like mindful eating, doing every work with an intent and consciousness in your mind that whatever I'm doing, whatever movement I'm doing, whatever work I'm doing, what is my intent behind this work? Why am I doing what am I doing? Even when I'm eating, really looking at the food and seeing it go inside you. When you're breathing, being very mindful about your breath, like really feeling that the breath is going inside and coming out. So these are all the methods of basically connecting your mind back with your body, bringing your mind back to your body, basically. In case of emotional trauma, there are many new aspects that have been coming out, like the EFT or the tapping. Okay, so that school of thought is basically that our emotions and our traumas that get trapped in different muscles, and our body has memory of it, and so it can come up as muscle tensions. So again, releasing those muscle tensions on a regular basis. Like I said before also, when you get up in the morning, just scan your body. Just close your eyes and go through every part of your body, starting from your face to your feet, that whether I'm feeling any tension, whether I'm feeling any pain, whether something that is different from what I feel regularly. So really scanning every day. It just takes about 2 to 3 minutes every day. It's not a difficult task at all. Even if we are very busy, we can do it on the go while we are traveling to our work as well. And yeah, I guess doing everything intentionally, being very intentional about what you're doing.
And what would be the role of nutrition or diet? Does it help in building alignment in our thoughts and our body?
Definitely, definitely. So it is proven that when there are certain neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, like monoamine oxidase, and there are different neurotransmitters which either inhibit, that is decrease, or augment our thought processes and how we feel. Right? We all know the effect of serotonins, and that are the major antidepressant pills, which increase our levels of reuptake of serotonins in our body and how they act with our receptors. It helps in making us feel more energetic. It helps in making our mood better. So any food or any nutrient which helps in either maintaining these levels in our body, the levels of these neurotransmitters in our body, or it helps in creating or synthesis of these neurotransmitters in our body, will definitely affect. So deficiency of vitamin B's, deficiency of vitamin D, there are few other micronutrients like tryptophan, magnesium. All of these deficiencies, they have been linked to changes in our mood, and also changes in our immunity and how our body reacts with our emotions. So definitely nutrients have a major role. How we eat, what we eat does make most of our body. You are what you eat. So all of that definitely helps. And so it is very important that when you are feeling low in mood or energy, to get a check of your vitamin levels, folate, vitamin B12, vitamin D, calcium. All of these levels are important to keep in a check and supplement if required.
Interesting. So, Trisha, many times it so happens that people, like these days I see many people, they come out from this high conflict divorce and they are still not in a stable state of mind or losing a loved ones. Many of them have lost them during COVID, but still they are in that year only. They've
Mm.
tried to bring their routine by going there to work and all, but emotionally they have yet not stabilized. Or any traumatic event is still keeping them mentally in that state.
Mm.
So, how to balance this disconnection in body and mind so they can come back to a present level where their physical body is?
Hmm. So, whether it's a physical trauma or it's a mental trauma, like we discussed, in both cases, the brain always wants to protect you. So, firstly, understanding that whatever symptoms I'm having, whether it is because of physical trauma, whether it's out of mental trauma, it's not about focusing on what's wrong with my body. It's about understanding that my body is either trying to protect me or signal me that do something about this. Okay. And when it is a trauma, like you said, whether it's from a relationship, a bereavement, or loss of someone, the body has similar effects on mental trauma as it has on physical trauma. So, like when we have a cut on our body, it tries to close the wound. It tries to clot the blood there so that you don't bleed anymore, so that that skin is opposed, right? And the same way, when we have a mental trauma, if we view it as like a cut in our emotions and our attachment style and how it affects us, right? So the body will again draw the same cascade. And initially, when it starts, it's painful, right? When it's healing, when the cut is healing, if you scratch it again, it's going to pain. It's going to take more time to heal. So it's the same with the mental trauma as well. At that point of time, it's important for our body to go through that process and not really fight it. So something like we were discussing before also, no? In our childhood, we hardly knew that emotions and thoughts could play a role in our health. And that's the same learning that I also had, that I used to feel that emotions are not important. All I have to focus is on my studies and career and grow, get settled and find the right man and do the right house. And this was important, right? It was all the external thing, but emotions, whenever, even our parents, probably because they had the same learning, neither could they tell us what is and how to handle our emotions. And so we never felt it was important. And so, in such a conditioning, we don't know how to handle emotions. We don't know what to do when I'm angry. I don't know what to do when I'm sad. So, all I do is just react, right? We don't know how to channelize it into a response. We don't know how to channelize it into something else. And we just put our body into autopilot, right? So, educating ourselves on emotions and why is this emotion coming? At times, the anger outbursts we have after a certain bereavement or a bad relationship is not because we are angry, but because we are hurt, because it was a sadness that did not get resolved. Because at some time we were abandoned, right? And that abandonment comes up in different forms of emotions. So your body says that resolve this, resolve this, resolve this. But for a long time, you haven't allowed your body to resolve it because you had to get to work, because you had to do your duty. So you just said to the emotions, just stop, let me do my work. And it stopped. And it didn't get the chance to heal and become a scar where you can just go ahead now. So you have to allow your body to go through that emotions. I think it's very important, especially in such stages, to be very slow and take a pause and be very kind to yourself. You have to go to your daily functioning, I agree, but I still can be kind on myself and just take a pause. I don't have to do everything at the same time. Life will still go on, right? So going through that emotion is very, very important. And what I mean by going through the emotion does not mean that I have to cry and vent it out, but we can sit with ourselves, with our bodies, maybe a few meditation techniques, maybe a few mindful techniques to really understand where this emotion is coming from. What is it that got abandoned? At times, when there's a loss of someone or relationship, whether it's a loss based on death or loss based on relationship loss, um, there is a certain sense of unsafe feeling, right? That now I'm all alone. I don't have support. And so I have to gain back the support from myself. And that might need some talking to someone who really cares for you, or if not, talking to a therapist. That there is no harm or taboo in that, right? If you're not able to get it out of you by yourself. And getting into exercises, yoga, or anything that will bring you back to your body, getting into dance forms, getting into anything that makes you feel good and exciting. Take some nature walks, connect with, try to be connected. Okay. So writing down what are your joys. There's a very beautiful exercise called Joy List. So where you just write down that what are the things that have given me joy since your childhood. It can be something as small as, so something, have you ever had pani puri? So pani
Yes.
puri makes you feel joy. Okay, taking that one bite of the chocolate makes you feel joy, or just looking at your plant makes you feel joy. Okay, find the small things that make you feel joy and just keep that list with you. Whenever you have this feeling, go back to that list and do one of the things from that. It makes you bring back yourself to yourself. So yeah, I guess really cultivating that when you're not in that acute phase and educating yourself on these aspects. There are so many content out there. See the content which actually helps your soul and feeds your soul on these things. And definitely it's not that difficult.
So when we spoke of this, it's like trauma, it was high intensity. But
Mhm.
at the same time, there are people like me who has not gone through this severe trauma, but there's lot of day-to-day stress, like workplace
Mhm.
stress or getting overwhelmed with day-to-day chores, so many things to do, not
Mhm.
having time. And
Mhm.
in that case, one common thing that I would have done is I would have said no to my emotion. Please don't come now. There's so many things to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do I manage such situation where I'm doing justice to my body and also to my emotions? I'm listening to my body is what I would say.
So, we are all held in our busy schedules. But then, is it really, tell me something, Namrata, is it really so difficult to get even 5 minutes for ourselves out of that day? Just
Definitely
five
not.
minutes before going to sleep, or 5 minutes after waking up, or when you're traveling. Is it not possible?
It's definitely doable.
Right. So the thing is that we are imagining, most of us are imagining that to create or cultivate these things, we need a lot of time. I have to take an hour out from my day, or I have to set up a different schedule for my day. I have to change my schedule and all of that. And that's what I was also doing actually. Since we doctors have 24-hour shifts, at times you have night duties, so we hardly have any schedule, so as to say. We do not have a circadian rhythm, like raat ko hi sona hai, din ko jagna hai, aisa hota hi nahi hai. We have a completely different body clock going on. And so initially I used to feel maybe this is not for me. In my professional field, it's not going to happen. But then I realized it doesn't take actually an hour. It takes maybe just 5 minutes. 5 minutes of breathing exercises. Is it not possible?
Possible. Possible. Now it's sounding very possible, Trisha, after listening to you.
Yeah, so it is actually not that difficult. And the second thing which helped me a lot is taking a pause and really taking one day out to understand what are your priorities. So when you schedule your day, you can see things as something when you do your to-do list or however you work, right? You see some things that which is urgent, which is important. Do the urgent things, keep the important things for some other day. There is nobody who's going to kill you because you did not do something. It's okay. We are all humans. We all need time to breathe and take a pause. Okay. Not everything needs to be done today itself. And all of these standards that we have set for ourselves only. Our work, the amount of demand that our work and our day-to-day life has is still okay, but the kind of standards we have put कि काम मुझे करना है पर ऐसे ही करना है. If it's not like this, then I'm not successful. If it's not like this, then तो मेरे काम करने को कोई मतलब ही नहीं है. If I'm cooking, if I don't cook today, if I don't cook this particular meal this particular way, then it makes no sense to me. So these standards we only have set for ourselves. So we have to really sit and prioritize that. Why am I setting these standards? Are these really important? Or am I hampering my health in the process? So is my health important or the standard important? Sometimes it's okay to just let loose. Sometimes it's okay to just lower our standards because not because we don't want to be evolving or growing, not in the name of that, but then sometimes, but to be growing and evolving, our health needs to be on priority. So taking a pause is very, very, very important once in a while. And it again can be only 5 minutes. It can be only once a week. That much is doable. It's very, very doable. I do it while I'm traveling. Most of the times I'll do my meditation and breath work while I'm traveling to my work, because that's the time when I don't have to do anything.
Super. So this is a gem of an advice, like how to make best use of travel time.
Yeah.
Sometimes the disconnection between body and mind, Tisha, it leads to chronic pain and illness. So if you see people are going through that same pain for decades, just popping in pills and it is still not going. So here their body is used to certain way of functioning, their mind is used to certain thought pattern, and the disconnect has been going on. So
Yeah.
is it practically possible to bring alignment after so many years of conditioning?
Absolutely. It is practically possible because our brain has neuroplasticity. Our brain is a constant learner. So it will take time, definitely, because it has been years of conditioning. And not only years, sometimes it's also new studies are saying that there are genetic transmission of such learnings and conditioning as well. So let's not go into that. It's a different topic. But yeah, definitely it is possible because we're always learning, right? If we can learn new skills for our work, why can't we learn new skills for our health? It's definitely possible. It's the same thing as learning a new skill. It's nothing different. It's just that what happens is when we are trying to learn something to do some work, it feels doable because that's what we are conditioned for. But when we are trying to learn something for ourselves, because we haven't ever put that importance only for ourselves, how can I learn only for myself? What is the productivity of learning? Will I get paid for this? Because we are conditioning us like that. No, we might not get paid for it. It might not look like you are adding to your productivity at your work or your daily relationships or anything. But in the long run, as your thought patterns improve, it is easier for you to learn anything or focus on anything, right? So your overall well-being is improved. So definitely, it's possible to learn. It's just like learning music. Can't we learn right now? Definitely we can. It's just like, can't we learn reading right now? People are learning at ages 60, 70, I don't know what ages, new skills. It's also a skill. This is just a skill set.
So in building ourselves, what would be the role of societal factors or friends, family that would help us navigate this journey while we are changing our thought pattern, while we are changing our daily lifestyle?
So social factors and cultural factors do affect. It's seen that it does affect our how we think and our thought patterns as well, and also our physical health. So different cultures are different. If we start with their eating habits, the eating habits are different in different cultures. So the level of nutrients in your body that can affect your health. The genetic factors are differently there. Helping, I would say that. This disconnect between individuality, building individuality, and building social awareness. What I mean by that is when we realize that all of us are actually together in this, it's very important. Like what happened in COVID, that was a beautiful thing, although it was a very bad time for us, but then we all kind of came together to combat something which was commonly challenging us. And if all our friends and family, all of us can together educate ourselves on cultivating healthy habits, because mostly till now modern medicine had been focusing on curing diseases or treating symptoms. I think we need to adopt a way where we can prevent and care rather than curing. Let's focus on caring. Okay, if you're going through something, let me help you out. The That is the social factor, I think, and I guess it's going to take a long time, because now it's only coming up and people are definitely realizing, and many people are actually becoming more empathetic towards others' feelings. And now we do have more emotional learning. It's going to help, I feel.
And one last question, Trisha, that it's very close to my heart, and I would like to know from you is how does body-mind connection helps us in building resilience for new challenges that would come? Like our day-to-day life, we are always
Yeah,
coming across different challenges, some seen, some unseen. But if we have a holistic body-mind connection, a good lifestyle, then how does it help us in our unforeseen challenges?
so just because we know about body mind connection, or just because we know about how to handle our emotions, doesn't mean that we are not going to feel emotionally overwhelmed, doesn't mean we are not going to get into that stress response, or does not mean that we are never going to get into the flight and fight. We are going to, because we're all humans and life will always happen to us, right? But what helps is the amount of time we are in that fight or flight, the amount of time that it will take me to come back to my body will decrease. So maybe earlier, to understand and to again get back to my chores, it used to take me maybe months, to get my energy back. Now maybe I can do it in a day. I take a day right now to recoup myself and get again back into my general form. So the time required is decreasing, and also I am more aware earlier, right now, because I know. So even small changes in my body, I'll be able to pick up easier and faster, and maybe I'll start acting on them. And when all of that happens, mind body reaction connection also has a very, very strong impact on our immunity. It is seen that people who are with who deal with a lot of recurrent infections, or have multiple allergies, or hypersensitivity to a few things, they do have some kind of mental health component. So it is definitely seen and researched, and there are many studies which show that our our improved mental health builds to our improved immunity. So you're basically more immune to challenges. So definitely it helps a lot in building your resilience. You are more, you feel more in control of your life and your body. And that adds to our confidence, which again helps in building resilience.
Tisha, this was really an insightful conversation where you did share about what are the small things that helps us to build a body-mind connection and how important is this feature. Like probably I never knew about this for a long time. And then when I started learning about it, and I realized this is such a strong thing. Like I can even manage my disease with my thoughts, and I can even change my thought by just moving
Yeah.
around. Oh, thank you so much, Disha. Thank you for coming, sharing all the insights that you've gained over a period of time. And I really loved our conversation today.
Me too. I had a wonderful conversation with you. It was great to, finally talk to you in person. I mean, virtually.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.